Hello, my name is Anne Russell. I'm from the Russell Family Fetal Alcohol Disorders Association. I'd like to talk about interviewing a child with FASD. First of all, I'd like to apologise for any background noise. It's the fan and the air conditioner. I live in Cairns. It's almost impossible to do anything without an air conditioner or a fan on, so I apologise. I'd like to talk about the interviewing a child or an adult with FASD. It's not straightforward, and it's definitely not the same as you would interview a neurotypical person. This is a very different process and requires a very different set of skills. You've got to try and get to the bottom of whether it's non-competence or non-compliance, whether the answers you're getting are correct, are factual, or whether they're what the individual believes. Now, this isn't lying. This is not lying. It's called confabulation, and it's a very common thing associated with FASD. So, for example, if you're interviewing a child with FASD, and you're asking them, say, tell me one thing that happened to you yesterday. And they might say, well, I wasn't allowed to go into the fridge. I'm never allowed to go into the fridge to get food. So on the surface, that sounds a little worrying. But with a child with FASD, you need to dig a little deeper. Ask more questions. So do you usually have dinner at night around the table, or do you have dinner in front of the TV? We have dinner in front of the TV. We always watch some particular program while we're having dinner, and it's really good. Okay, and what about lunches for school? Does mum pack your lunch, or are you allowed to have tuck shop? The child might say, oh, we're only allowed to have tuck shop every month. The rest of the time mum packs our lunches. So you sort of get an idea that the child is not hungry, is being looked after. Obviously you might ask more questions, but don't ever assume that the first answer you get is the accurate one, is the truthful one, is the factual one. You need to dig deeper. You need to ask more questions. Do not ask leading questions, because if you ask leading questions, the answer you get will be the answer you want. So, for example, you might ask, you saw that wallet in the lounge room and you took it, didn't you? And they will say, yeah, okay. Because they will often want to say what you want to hear, what they think you want to hear. They don't understand the consequences, because that's not important to them. What's happening right this very minute is what's important to them. So the consequences might be that they get into trouble from the police, or they might get into trouble from parents, but they're not understanding fully, when they're answering that question, that they will get into trouble and what the consequences might be. So don't ever accept the first answer as gospel. And I need to reaffirm that this isn't lying as such, lying as we know it. This is confabulation. This is misremembering things. This is misunderstanding things. It's forgetting things. It's merging fantasy with fact. It's definitely not lying per se, although that's not out of the question. Obviously, that's why you need to ask those continuing questions and keep delving in and keep coming back to the original question, because it's likely they'll have forgotten what they said in the first question. If you've asked 3 or 4 questions, it's very likely they will have forgotten what they answered in the first question. So continue to ask. Eventually you might get to what really happened, but you need to be very careful when interviewing a child with FASD, that what they're saying is accurate, is real. Communication, FASD has got a very complex communication issue. Generally speaking, they've got very good expressive language, which means they can talk very well, they can sound like they really know what they're talking about and really have it all together. but their receptive language, they may understand only one or two words out of a sentence, or they may only hear one of every three words. It's very difficult to know, but because they've gotten through life to this point, they've become very good at hiding that they don't understand what you're talking about. So they might answer a question with something that they've heard in the past, or they might just say, I don't know, which is a very typical response. So that has to be understood as well. So anyway, I guess it's, I don't want to make this video very long. I just wanted to make it quite subtle and quite short. But it is very important, particularly for those professionals, police, child safety, the education system. It's very important that you understand that even if it seems like the child is lying, or even if it seems like they're telling the truth, that may not be what it actually is. You've got to keep asking those questions, and you can't assume that they understand what you're talking about if you've told them something. So even if you've said, look, you know, if you don't tell the truth, you know, your parents could go to prison, or you could go to prison, or something else could happen, that's not going to mean a great deal to them. Again, I must say this is typical. The condition is a spectrum. All right, well, that's it now. For now, thank you very much. I'll keep posting more videos as the time goes on. Thank you.